Gift aid, we've had a couple of questions in on the Cover It Live box already around gift aid. Rebecca, could you talk us through some of the traps that practitioners may fall into around gift aid in the 2017 season?
Yeah, Tom, gift aid, obviously very, very common, crops up all over the place. Let's just run through from the top some of the things to be aware of. Certainly, I think one of the useful aspects of gift aid is it's the only way that you can still reduce the tax for 2015-16 right up until the date the tax return is submitted, provided it isn't submitted late. That's one of the ones to watch out for with clients who are a bit relaxed about the £100 fine. You lose that option of carrying back gift aid payments from the current year into 15-16. So look particularly at those clients with total income between 100,000 and 121,200. The slide should say, bit of mistyping there on my behalf. They are, of course, paying an effective rate of 60% because their personal allowance is being tapered. And it may be that they did or they have given regularly to charity. You could do a carryback of the gift aid payment. You might even have a pause after completing the tax return and say to your client, if you wanted to make any donations to charity, then now is a really good time to do it. We'll hold the tax return until you've made that payment, evidence the payment, and then put it on the tax return, getting yourself a nice lot of tax relief. A really good way to give money to charity, but to do so in a very tax efficient way. Also think about how you identify gift aid payments. In the old days, of course, it was donations to charity under deed of covenant. There was a sort of formality about it. So how are you collecting data about gift aid payments? If people get sort of mugged in the street by the charity collectors, is that payment that they get persuaded to set up, monthly payment out of their bank account, is that on a business account? Is it an account you see, or is it on a private account that you don't see and your client's forgotten to mention it to you? Also, a big one, Paul and I were chatting about this earlier, quite a big one is bag of clothes down to the Oxfam shop with your gift aid sticker on it, and you start getting emails. I can't remember whether Oxfam does it by email, but certainly my local hospice charity sends me an email about once a quarter when they've sold a load of my old clothes and jigsaw puzzles and so on. They state the value of the donation. Now, clients may not be tuned in to giving that to you, and you're missing out, for a higher rate taxpayer, you're missing out on your extra tax relief. And watch out for non-taxpayers, particularly in the coming year. So not so much on the return that you are just finishing, but in the coming year, the year that we're actually in, we've got changes to the taxation of interest. We've got people who've no longer got a tax liability, and they need to know that they need to tell any charities they make donations to that they are no longer a taxpayer, so they withdraw their gift aid statement. Otherwise, they're going to have a tax bill. Can't do it retrospectively because the charity may already have claimed the tax relief. So that's something to really bear in mind as we go through this period where we've got some quite noticeable changes in the way some income is taxed, particularly interest. Be aware of that. And one little story from me, just a very interesting little story. I spoke to a chap, not a client, but I spoke to a chap a few years ago. He'd given up a big career in London and decided to go into the ministry. As a result of going into the ministry, he had, for a period while he trained, no income at all, but he'd also decided to give a quarter of his wealth to charity. So he was phoning up and asking for a bit of help as to where to put things on his tax return. And of course, he had made a £40,000 donation to charity and had no income. So he had a nasty shock because having no income and given away a lot of money, he then had a big tax bill. So that's just a little sort of warning story for you. So yeah,
hardly divine intervention.
I know, really tough one, that one.
No good deed goes unpunished.